IVM.
Hello one, hello all. Welcome to the Diary of the Traveling Professor. And I'm Siddharth Deshmukh, your friendly neighborhood traveling professor himself. What does this diary entry of mine actually have in store for you today? Well, it's something called the 80-20 principle. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have heard of it fleetingly, while others are completely not knowing what the hell I'm talking about. But the 80-20 principle is so strong, and of course, as a professor, I'd feel that it is so strong a principle that it just overshadows almost everything that I have seen as a business, marketing, or indeed a life principle for a lot of us. In fact, all of us. So what is this 80-20 principle? Right. The 80-20 principle says that 80% of your effort goes to waste and 20% of your effort actually makes all the difference. 80% of your employees are complete wastes of time, while 20% are your stars. 80%, okay, you're getting what I'm saying, right? In every walk of life, 80% is wasted, 20% is what actually makes the difference. So it's a great principle and all that, but how the hell do I use it, man? There are so many challenges to use the 80-20 principle. The first challenge is ignorance. I think a lot of us, even if we know of this principle, don't really use it on a day-to-day basis in life. We are ignorant of it. What happens is that because we are ignorant of it, we just look at life as a series of activities or a series of tasks that we are trying to do with the same amount of focus, the same amount of determination, the same amount of effort, and the rest of it. Well, guess what? What happens is that 80% of all of that stuff is completely a waste of time. Well, maybe 79%, maybe 81%, but let's understand the principle over here rather than quibble about the numbers, shall we? If I have to just kind of think about it, the second challenge is about, okay, so you know about the 80-20 principle, you are aware of it, and you want to employ it tomorrow. The first question that strikes you is, which 20% is going to be useful? Tell me that. If you tell me that, well, you're a really sorted person. One of the key and really difficult things that all of us have to do is to identify the 20% that actually makes a difference to things. Now, for that, we have to really understand the sweet spot. We have to understand our strengths and skills. We have to understand where they meet the market or anything else that you're trying to have an impact on, and the 20% that you can consistently do because you're genuinely interested in them, right? In them meaning the actual activities that you have to try and do or to try and achieve. So after you identify that, sometimes it becomes way more easier to apply the 80-20 principle because you suddenly recognize, this is a 20% activity or this falls in my 80%. Okay. The third challenge is sometimes I wonder, sure, it's the 80-20 principle. Of course, it will make a difference, but do we really need the 80% in order for us to actually access the 20%? Like, for instance, sometimes I have to go through boring meetings in order for me to actually understand what the hell is going on. Now, you might call that as a waste of time because I'm not doing something creative or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the 20% or the rest of it. But perhaps I need to eat that frog, another principle, in order for me to reach that 20%. Now, that is a damn difficult thing. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges of all. Do we really need to go through the 80% in order for the 20% to work? I think, to be honest, if I have to use this 80-20 principle, of course, the first thing is not to be ignorant. Of course, the next thing is to identify the 20% that works for me. But more often than not, what I have to do is when I'm doing a 20% activity, actively recognize it as a 20%er and do it really, really, really well. Now, because I know that it's in my 20%, and if I do it really well, it will have an impact. Most of the times, 20% activities come across as easy because, they're also in your skill set and your strengths and the rest of it. So you think, I'll just get this done with and get on with that boring meeting. That is not decidedly the way to go. The 20% is where you should challenge yourself. When you challenge yourself to reach a new height in that 20%, that is when I feel that we will all see real impact having in our lives. Now, if I look at the way in which I can look at all of this, and make sense of it, recognition is the key. Recognition that it is a 20% activity, recognition that I need to do it really, really well, holds key difference between, just coasting by or making tomorrow the best day of your life. Well, I hope you loved this 80-20 principle because I'm really fascinated by it, and I'm sure you will be too once you start practicing it in your life. But if you think it is very serious, well, you should follow my Instagram then, because I'm running a lot of funny, insightful, but funny stories on my Instagram, right? Where I am the traveling professor. And on LinkedIn, you can see a glimpse of my serious side. Again, the traveling professor. And if you like podcasts like these, well, there's the IVM Podcast app, or just go to ivmpodcast.com. Happy 80-20ing.
I hope you enjoyed that show. We'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Guys, it's been a really, really cool week. We've had a ton of interesting stuff come out. We had an episode with Kunal Shah on Cyrus Says. We've had really stellar episodes on Pesa Vesa, Advertising is Dead, Filter Coffee Podcast, on Empowering Series, all over the place. Definitely do check it out. I'm sure you'll enjoy what's been going on this week. And thanks for listening, and we hope to catch you again next week.
Are you looking for India's most awesome cricket podcast? Are you now tired of listening to the same old guys drone on about cricket everywhere? Edges and Sledges is a weekly cricket podcast hosted by three fans of the game, Varun, DJ, and myself, Ashwin. It was established in early 2018, has over 60 episodes now, and is of course now proud to be on the IVM Podcast Network. Each week, we get together from three different time zones, the USA, the UK, and Singapore, and we talk about things from the world of cricket, with a focus on Indian cricket. We often interview special guests from all around the world, including former cricketers and cricket media personalities. So check out Edges and Sledges, the cricket podcast, now on the IVM Network.